In the first loop, we get the first item and then do something to the first item. In the second loop, we get the second item and do something to the second item. And we repeat this until there's no item left. If you're inside VPN, let's open Jupyter Hub. And if you're using on laptop, please open a Jupyter Notebook. I can show you briefly how to open Jupyter Notebook. So go to a terminal. If you're using your own laptop, type Jupyter space notebook. This will open your Jupyter Notebook. But if you are inside the hospital, you can just go into jupyterhub.partners.org. And if you go in there, just click on the first link, Jupyter Hub 1, then you will see your Jupyter Hub. But you have to be inside VPN for this. Okay, click on new and let's click on Python 3. Okay, I'll give you a few more seconds to be there. Downloaded Miniconda, but you could also download Anaconda. So we discussed why we have to go to either Miniconda or Anaconda last time, and we installed them and we ran Jupyter Notebook. And we went through how to use Jupyter Notebook quicker by using shortcuts like Shift to enter and then pressing ESC to go into normal mode and J and K to move around. All right, and then we did basics. We did basic data types in Python, which were strings and integers and floats. And then we did list and dictionaries. And then we did the slicing, which is getting the data using the order number or index of the item. Say we have a list and we wanted to get the first item, then we could do this, a bracket 0. If we wanted to get the last item, we could do a bracket -1 and so on. Okay, that's what we did last time, and we did some task. And today we're gonna start with another task. So have a go at this. First one, create a list called names underscore list with full people's names. Create a list called names underscore list. We can create list like this, right? And then it's a full people's name is names, which means it's strings. You have to use quotation mark. I'm going to include Kevin. I'm going to haha. I'm going to include Coke. I'm going to include keyboard. Anything, any names or people's name. And then shift enter to run the cell. And now if I check what the name list is, it's a list. We know it's a list. Let's get first item out of the list. How would you do that? Get the first item, get the first name. Names list. To get the first item, I do bracket and then 0. That returns me the first item. And then if I do brackets -1, it returns me the last item, which is keyboard for me. All right. Next up, let's create a dictionary this time. Create a dictionary called name underscore age underscore dict with full people's names and age. So we are creating a list which is composed of a key and the value. This time key will be people's name and value will be age of the person. Okay, key, value, key, name, value, so age. Create a dictionary. Okay, let's create a dictionary now. Create a dictionary called name underscore age underscore dict. Dictionary uses curly brackets and then key and value using colon. Key, Kevin, 37. And then haha, 29. And keyboard is 1.5. I'm going to run that. So it has key and value, which is linked together. And we can get the value of specific item using the key. Get age of Kevin. How would you do that? Get the values stored in Kevin key. Here again, we use brackets. So name underscore age underscore dict. We use Kevin 7. When I type keyboard, it's going to return me 0.5. Okay. All right. That was recap for today. And let's do loops. So let me create my name into a name variable, and I'm going to put in Kevin. I'm going to run this. And what if I get the first, if it was a list, I could get the first item by using bracket 0. What happens if I do name bracket 0? It's a string, but it's gonna still return me the first character out of the string. We can do the same thing, name -1, last item, yes, N in the Kevin, okay? So we could get the character over a string that we want. Say you want to get every letter from second position of your string, you can also do this. Okay. Oh, sorry. Second should be 1. All right. And there's another function related with the string is called attributes. But when you do dot after a string variable, you can do upper. Let's try running it. If you run it, you will get capitalized strings. If you do name dot lower, you will get small letters for every character that you have in the string. Okay, can be quite useful sometimes. So now you are mixing up your strings. Say you have a path as a string. Now you can mix them up if you think about it. Let's do numbers now. 1 plus 1. In Bash, it was quite difficult to do this, but in Python, you can just directly run calculation. Let's do 1 plus 1. It returns you 2. Let's do 95 multiply. This multiplies a star. Multiply by 45. It's going to return 42, 72. Okay, you can do calculations right away. What happens if you do 1 plus name? So name was a Kevin, which was string, and now we are adding it to the integer. Now we are getting error because they are different types. How can we add string 1 in front of Kevin? I want to do 1 Kevin. How can I do this? We have to change the integer into string by giving it to the string function. And then if you see the output, it has quotation mark, which means it's a string. Now you can add them to the name. Okay? You can't add numbers to the strings. You have to make them same type and then do something. Okay? How about I do name2 and then I define them as Nick. Okay? I want to now add name and name2. Name, which was Kevin, and name2, which is Nick. Now it works because it's strings. Strings can be added together in a like same way as you add numbers. Okay. I can make a fake usage for this. You can set up a root by data cho, and then you can set up file name with image.png. Okay. When you do this, you can add root plus file name to get the full path. Okay, you can add strings. All right, this is good enough adding strings and numbers, but there's a thing called format in Python which helps you to do this. So if you write it this way, it's slightly confusing. I don't know what plus is doing with strings. I don't get it like by just looking at plus with strings. So I personally feel it's easier if you format it like this. Root, and then I want to put in file name right away. Then I can see that it's being just appended to each other, and then you just type F in front of it. So F for format, and you just surround your variables with brackets. So it's going to return the same thing. It's going to return the same thing with the plus, but it's a different way of putting strings together. So now we just have 2 variables, so wait until we have 3 or 4 variables. Adding them gets complex. But when you look at them, you just directly know you are just appending them as a string. Okay, good. Now it's a loop. But loop, let me go back to the loop again, just in case someone missed the Linux loop. Loop is simply repeating something, just repeating something and getting a item from a list and doing something. In a first loop, we get the first item and then do something to the first item. In the second loop, we get the second item and do something to the second item. And we repeat this until there's no item left. Okay? That's what loop is. And Python loop is very slightly different from Bash in terms of syntax. But the core concept of repeating and getting the first item, getting the second item and repeating again is the same. So the syntax goes on like this. Let me just check if I have names list. Oh, if I don't have names list, I'm gonna make up names. I'm gonna name the A, B, C, D this time. I'm gonna run it. So now I have a list that I can loop through. So the syntax in Python for looping becomes for space and the variable, the item, the first item that you wanna call. So what is A? Oh, I wanna call them character in names, and there's a colon at the end. So this means loop through names. I'm gonna get each item from the names and then I'm gonna call each of them character. But remember, this each loop runs on first item and then it runs on second item once I finish everything on the first loop. Okay? Let me just print them character. So it will print A, B, C, D in the same way, but it is printing A. It is getting A into character, printing it. It's getting B into a character and then printing it. getting C into a character and then printing it. Okay, it's very, very similar. But here, make sure you understand what's the difference between that character here and this character. This character is a string, but this character is a variable. Let me run this. Or before I run this, just guess what's going to be printed. So just look at this one. This is coming from the first loop. It's printing character, which is A here, and the string character from this line. Okay, this is variable and this is string. All right, good. This is very similar to the bash, but remember there's an indentation here. So the indentation in Python marks what's going to happen in each loop. So in each loop, this will happen. And then once this is done on the first item, it's going to go on to the second item. All right. Okay. Then we just learned this. Let's try this one as well. F character. What do you think this is? So this is printing character variable and character string afterwards. If it's confusing, let's change them to something else. I'm going to run the loop. Guess what's going to happen? It's going to print a string character, and then this will also be a string, but it will be a character variable space AWEOI, something like that. Let me print it. Control I. Okay. We can mix them up together in a simple loop. They came up at once. But remember, just imagine this printing takes really long time. Then we get an A first, and then we have to wait. And then we get a character, and then we have to wait. And then we get this weird character, and then we have to wait. So these are actually happening in sequence. These are not happening at once. These are happening in sequence. All right, that's the loop. That's the basics of the programming in any language. But we're going to repeat this again. So if you don't get it, don't worry about it. Let me do just a few more things. There's variations in loops. So say your name has thousands of names, and in each loop you want to know how many subject you went through. There's a thing called enumeration. Say num, and name in is the same names, but you include this in enumerate. Let me show you what num is. Let me run this. Num is just number, the index of the item of the loop. So first item, second item, third, and so on. Let me print name after this. So first item is A, second item is B. So num variable is just marking which loop the loop is right in. Can be quite useful later when we want to count each loop. And then say you have different lists, say age, 25, 35, 45, 55. And you had names which were A, B, C, D, and just imagine I meant 25 for A, 35 for B, 45 for C. Just imagine. And I want to loop them through. Loop them through first item from names, first item from age, loop them through. Second item from name, second item from age, loop them through. So you can zip them together for name and age. Sorry, I named this slightly bad. Let me rerun this. So now I can just grab them. I can just mix them by names and ages. Sorry. Let me print them, name and age. Then it's gonna loop them through together. Rather than looping through name and looping through name, I can loop them together. Maybe I can make them easier like this. Is years old. Okay? Alright, when you see this, you will probably think about dictionary. So let's form a dictionary. Name, age, text. A is 22, B is 33, C is 44, D is 55, and I can loop through the dictionary too. For name, age, in same sequence, and then we give the dictionary, which is name, age, dict. We just include dot items at the end. This is just telling you, oh, I'm gonna loop them through each item. So each item represents A22, B33, C44, and I name them name and age. So let's do print name. This name is age is old. Okay, so we can do this. So this is a simple loop. There's tons of things that we can do. We are just now printing variables, but we can add numbers. Say we have thousands of numbers, we can add them. A is 0, and then I'm going to loop them through for I in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's just numbers. In each loop, I'm going to A plus I, and I want to print them. So in each loop is adding a number to a variable. So 0 plus 1, 0 plus 2, 0 plus 3. Not only this, I can update the base number like this. So now your A will change in a loop. Your A is suddenly 28. Okay, so now you can do things in loops, and it's very similar to Bash. If you don't understand it, it's fine. We're going to repeat them many times, but this is basics of Python or many other programmings. So let me quickly recap what we did today. We ran bash commands inside Vim by colon and by colon R and then exclamation mark. Now we start to search them so we can move up and move down a lot faster. So I can use /BA to find whatever words with BA or whatever words with Kevin or label. I can move around them faster. And then you could replace them with substitutes. Alright, and then in Python, we went through loops, simple loops for strings and numbers, and then counting which loop I am by enumerate, and then zipping number of list, names and ages together by zipping them, and then now we can also loop through dictionary. So we have basic loop, and if we have basic condition, which is if statement, then we can make some basic programs for ourselves. That's it for today, and let me know if you have any questions.